So hi everyone. This is another video in the series that I'm doing on the different modalities that I use when working with my spiritual care clients. Um, and this video focuses primarily, or it focuses on dream work, which I sometimes like to call dream reverence. And it is one of my most beloved forms of working with clients because I have just seen time and time again how effective it is at helping clients to deepen into a reverential relationship with their own process, their own intuitive capacities, and how something that is bigger than themselves moves through them through many avenues, including their dreams. And so, many people who I meet, they talk about how they don't dream, supposedly. Um, and I just want to clarify right off the bat that that is not true because that would be impossible. Just because we don't remember our dreams upon awakening doesn't mean that we don't dream. If our brains are not producing images of the dream sort when we're sleeping, that means that we're dead. Um, so, just from a scientific perspective, just to clarify, everybody dreams. It's just a matter of whether or not we are in a relationship with our dreams such that we're able to remember and retain them upon waking. And then, even when people can remember their dreams, there is often just like a lack of knowledge about, how do we even seek to quote unquote make sense of our dreams, recognizing that many people's dreams do not function, at least, on the surface, in a very sensible way. Some people have dreams that resemble their waking life, and other people have incredibly fantastical dreams where things literally just make no sense by conventional standards. In either case, even the ones that seem to resemble our waking life, there can still be a lot of confusion as to what does that even signify or mean. And I once had a client who uh at the start of a session said, I don't really have any meaningful dreams to share. There was only this one from last night that I can really remember. And it was just like kind of boring and not like I don't think it's that meaningful. Um, by the end of the session, that client, where we explored that dream in greater depth, that client clarified for herself what she had been knowing for a long time, that she needed to make a total career change, and literally within a few months had made that career change. So I'm just sharing that one example to say that there is no pointless dream. They're all dreams are engendered in our consciousness for a purpose, and whether or not we can discern that with our own waking conscience, um, that's another question. But someone who is a dream worker is meant to help someone come to clarity about what is moving through their lives in a psychological, spiritual, relational, what like on many sorts of fronts. Um, and how are this person's dreams helping to offer poetic clues as to what's going on and what might be a path forward that is in integrity for the person who is having the dream. So just, right off the bat, I'll say that I never use dream dictionaries in my work. And the teachers whom I have worked with of the dream worker teachers whom I've worked with, whom I have respected the most, do not think very highly of dream dictionaries. And that's because any image that comes up in a person's dreams, while there are definitely historic, archetypal, cultural symbolism, that a particular element of a dream can signify, it is nevertheless important to come to clarity about that particular client's relationship to that kind of symbol. Because, for example, in certain cultures, an owl is a bringer of deep wisdom and good fortune, and in other traditions, it's an omen of a very like sometimes even evil things to come. So, like the cultural dynamics around symbols is important to take into account when working with a client, both in terms of their own personal relationship to a cultural context that may or may not say something about that particular symbol, but also their own personal experiences with those symbols, because some people have great experiences with dogs, for example, and other people really don't. And if a dog shows up in a person's dream, it will relate to what our, individual experiences with that kind of symbol have been in our lives. So dream dictionaries, I don't use them. They're not, in my opinion, terribly helpful. When it comes to helping a client discern what is going on in their dreams. And so I just say this to share that, the dream work that I offer is no, it's not cookie cutter at all, and it's also not. It's a spiritual process. It's not a psychological process of the sort that can sometimes be common these days. Should people work with their dreams at all, it's often from a bit more secular, a less sort of spiritual approach, even if it's of the Jungian or depth psychology type, where that's a bit more spiritual than a Freudian approach to dreams. That can still sometimes, even Jungian approaches to dream work can sometimes remove the sort of animacy and the animacy from dreams, and the way in which most cultures the world over, millennia over, have understood dreams to be, which is um, essentially divinatory gifts, that is gifts from divine sources to the person to help that person act on divine insight and invitation for their own life. So when I'm doing dream work with clients, I'm certainly not imposing any religious dogma or spiritual frameworks upon them, but I am seeking to engender a relational dynamic between the client and their dreams, such that they understand the dream to be gifts from, you might call it the dream maker. If you're not someone who has a word that you use to denote, a more theistic concept, or, the mystery from which all things emerge. Our dreams, they are of us and they come through us and they are for us. But in my own understanding, and even a Jungian psychological approach, would suggest that our dreams come from a source that is bigger than us. And in my own personal experience, it's even bigger than like the collective subconscious of the human species. It is a process in which we are in relationship with the environment that we're in, and beings and realities that extend beyond just the kind of secular human scope of understanding. So this to me helps to explain why at times people will have very vivid dreams in a particular location, because that particular landscape or place is a really, really rich environment for for whatever spiritual reason. Also, many people have experienced having what they call visitations from people who are recently deceased in their dreams, and have said like that was absolutely not a fabrication of my own imagination. That was definitely my relative visiting me. And that aligns with historic understandings of dreams, is that it is a process or a space in which the person is actually is walking in the other world, you might say, and is encountering beings that might be harder to access when we are engaged in our normative waking consciousness, just like when we're going about our day. Our dreams are our own experience of what some might call the other world, or the realm beyond the veil. If that doesn't jive with you, you can of course view dreams as a purely psychological occurrence to great effect. That's a very effective tactic. But I think that when we actually expand our understanding of what dreams are to include a realm that is vaster than just in our own, skulls, it ends up actually facilitating a much richer um, development of our relational capacities, both with different parts of ourselves, but also with how all those parts of us meet many other parts of reality. Um, and the more that we are able to train ourselves to be in a deep relationship with our dreams, and with the dream conscience, of the um, uh, rich reality that we live in that includes what's visibly discernible to us and also worlds unseen, we are just living in our waking hours in a much richer way because we are able to see both what's immediately in front of us and have a greater capacity to also feel into the magical, mystical depth of the reality that surrounds us by virtue of honing our capacities for subtle intuition through dream work. So dream work is of course pertinent to our nightly journeys through dreams. Um, but it is also a wonderful process by which we can deepen um, our experience of our waking lives as well. And so if you're someone who is like, this sounds amazing, but I do not remember my dreams. How do I even get started here? Um, the first thing to talk about is, of course, just basic sleep hygiene, which all of us know at this point, but may not have really felt like a huge reason to really lean on because, sometimes we do just like to watch a TV show right before going to bed, even though we know that looking at screens right before bed is not the best. So, just consider this, an invitation if you are interested in, pursuing your dreams. Consider that an invitation on the part of your own vessel to maybe instead of like watching a TV show right before bed, actually viewing your dreams as, for example, an episode in a TV series that will be just as exciting to watch, if not more exciting than, the show that you were watching. And seek to reduce screen exposure before you go to bed, dimming lights and making your environment such that you're able to relax um, as deeply as possible for as long as possible before going to bed. That is great and ideal. I'm not going to give any dietary suggestions for how to cultivate dreams because there's just a lot of talk about like eating some of this makes your dreams weirder or going to bed with, an empty stomach makes things better for you. Like, I am not your doctor. I do not know what you need for nutrition. I'm not going to comment on that at all. And I have gone to bed like, with a very full stomach or having eaten all sorts of different things. And my dreams are rich no matter what. So if you've heard advice about like food and eating, if you want to try it out, great. But I just, take care of your body, basically however your body needs in accordance with your specific physical makeup before you go to bed. Reduce screens if you're able to. And most importantly, actually invite dreams to come to you and invite them to stay with you when you wake up. Make those invitations before you go to bed because that signals to the dream world, whether you consider that to be a purely psychological thing or, an external experiential reality that you enter into, just signal to that capacity within you to have dreams that you want to be in a relationship with it because that is the most effective and immediate I would say factor as to whether or not someone is actually able to remember their dreams. The other major thing that really helps is if you can avoid alarms in the morning. Alarms, if you think of it this way, if your dream is like a feather, that you're holding in your hand upon waking, an alarm is like a foghorn that's like blowing it away from you and it's knocking it out of your consciousness. So obviously many of us need alarms to wake up in the morning. But one thing that has worked for a lot of people to great effect is to request of your conscience that you wake up 15 minutes before your alarm. I know that can sound like as if that's going to work, but when I do it, it works. And most of the clients that I've worked with, it works for them. And don't ask me necessarily how it works, but it does for a lot of people. So just requesting of your conscience, I'm setting my alarm for X hour. Please help me wake up 15 minutes before this. And that gives you time to slowly emerge back out of your dream world and have time to actually crystallize the images of your dreams in your consciousness. And writing down your dream before you get out of bed is one of the surest ways to make sure that you actually have the record of it. The moment that you get out of bed and move your body, it's kind of like that foghorn that will blow it away. The more that we actually re-embody ourselves in the waking world, the more distant the dream world gets. So if you're able to wake up before your alarm, move very slowly and grab a journal and pen, and you don't even have to write like a full-on Lord of the Rings narrative about what happened, but if you can even put down the bullet points of seeing a certain thing or remembering a conversation, do that. And no matter how lengthy your entry becomes, if it's a novel or a bullet point list, write it as though it is in, or write it in the present tense with I statements. So instead of saying, last night I dreamt of going to the grocery store, you write, I am at the grocery store. Because that helps us stay in the dream world when we are writing and recording it in the present tense. It will keep the self in that experience rather than commenting on it from outside. Another way to do this, if this isn't too trippy, for some people it's too trippy, you can record yourself repeating the dream in the present tense if writing in the morning is too hard for whatever reason. Some people find that's very trippy because then they're like, whoa, am I dreaming or am I awake now? But that's another way to go about it if writing is hard for you for whatever reason. Um, but again, the sort of most helpful thing is to do it as soon as you're able to, and writing in the present tense in I statements. But before you even start journaling it, just see if you can start to actually cultivate a capacity to remember your dreams at all, by in the evening before you fall asleep, signaling to your dreams that you wish to develop a relationship with them and that you're available to record and learn from them, moving forward, and just see how that ends up shifting your own capacity to quote unquote have dreams. You have dreams, it's just a matter of remembering them. But see if that helps to shift whether or not you wake up being like, oh yeah, I definitely dreamt of something. And then the more you practice, the easier it gets to recall and retain and record what happened in the dream. Working with a dream worker can be a really beautiful way to help to come to clarity about what dreams are illuminating, inviting of you, or um, inquiring of you. Sometimes our dreams ask questions of us. But even to start, just to having a personal practice at home of doing some of those things that I mentioned can really help already to deepen your spiritual life. And if at any point you want to explore the possibility of working with a dream worker, know that I'm available for that kind of work. There are also many, many dream workers out there. Many therapists also do dream work, especially of the Jungian depth psychology sort of branch of psychology. That's a very rich place to go to look for a dream work support. And in my own practice, again, there's a reverential approach to it where we're not just seeing this as like um a territory to extract information from, that's just like only in your brain, and we have to pick at it and sort of dissect it and use fluorescent lighting on it, but rather the approach that I take is really understanding our dreams as gifts to us, from the deepest parts of ourself, which is actually connected to the deep of reality, that spans beyond certainly our individual lives, but also human consciousness writ large, in my opinion. So, hence why I like to call it dream reverence, because we're taking a reverential approach to these beautiful, beautiful gifts, of the divinatory sort that we're granted every night, to help us live in deeper integrity with ourselves, and therefore also deeper integrity with, the reality that we inhabit. So, yeah, wishing you best of luck as you, potentially explore, your own relationship to your dreams. And if ever working, with me might be helpful for that, you're welcome to message me. And if you have any questions, about this process and this practice, you're also welcome to message, those to me as well. All right. Thanks so much for listening.